There's a verse in the Bible that almost everyone knows but few have truly seen. It's been read at funerals, quoted in sermons, and whispered in prayers for centuries. It sounds simple, comforting, almost poetic. Yet within that single sentence, Jesus hid the greatest mystery of the end times, the key to the rapture itself. It wasn't veiled in symbolism or buried in prophecy. It was spoken plainly, hidden in plain sight, by the lips of the bridegroom himself on the night before the cross. On that final night, as shadows fell over Jerusalem and the disciples' hearts trembled with confusion, Jesus didn't give them a chart or a timeline. He gave them a promise that stretches across time, echoing to our generation, the generation standing at the edge of fulfillment. He said, "I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also." John 14:3. Those words are more than comfort, they are code. Every syllable carries prophetic precision. In them lies the pattern of the rapture, the blueprint of the bridegroom's return, not for the world at large, not for nations or kings, but for those who belong to him, the bride waiting in the dark with her lamp still burning. Most people read that verse and see sentiment, but heaven sees sequence. Jesus was revealing the divine plan first, departure to prepare, then return to retrieve, finally reunion forever. It's the rhythm of redemption, the heartbeat of the rapture. The night he was betrayed, he left the church with a love letter disguised as a prophecy. And now, as the world races toward midnight and the noise of nations grows louder, that quiet promise whispers once more. The key to the rapture has never been hidden from sight. It's been hidden from the distracted. The bridegroom already told us how he would come, who he would come for, and why. We just stopped listening closely enough to hear it. Tonight, we open that verse again, not as students of prophecy, but as lovers of his promise. Because when Jesus said, "I will come again," he wasn't just speaking of an event. He was revealing a secret, and once you see it, you'll never read his words the same way again. 1. The verse that unlocks the rapture, John 14:3. Everything about the rapture, its timing, purpose, and mystery, is hidden in one verse most believers quote without realizing what they're saying. It's not found in Revelation or Daniel, but in the quiet words Jesus spoke in the upper room on the night before the cross. "And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also." John 14:3. Those words weren't theological, they were personal. They weren't prophecy given to scholars, they were a promise given to friends. The disciples had just been told Jesus was leaving, and their hearts were breaking. But in that sorrow, he unveiled the most intimate revelation of his return. Not his return to reign in judgment, but his return to retrieve his bride. Every word of that verse carries meaning deeper than time itself. If I go, he was speaking of his death, resurrection, and ascension. "And prepare a place for you." The divine act of the bridegroom, building a home for his bride. I will come again, a future, personal, physical return. And finally, receive you unto myself, not to the earth, but to himself, to the place he has prepared. That word receive is the heartbeat of the rapture. In Greek, it's paralambanō, to take alongside, to draw close. It doesn't describe conquest, it describes intimacy. It's not the king descending to judge, it's the groom arriving to collect. This is not Revelation 19, when Jesus returns with his saints to rule. This is John 14, when he comes for his saints to rescue. The context makes it unmistakable. Jesus was comforting his disciples, not warning the nations. He wasn't speaking of wrath, He was speaking of reunion. The tone is love, not judgment, promise, not panic. He didn't tell them to endure tribulation. He told them to trust his timing. Let not your heart be troubled. I go to prepare a place for you. Those aren't the words of a general, they're the words of a groom, and that's the divine clue. In Jewish culture, those words mirrored the exact vow a bridegroom would make after engagement. He would tell his bride, I am going to prepare a place for you. When it's ready, I'll come back for you. The bride never knew the day or hour. Only the father of the groom decided when the home was complete. Then, at a time known only to him, the father would say, Go get your bride. Now, listen again to Jesus' words through that lens. No one knows the day or the hour, but my Father only. He wasn't giving us an excuse to ignore prophecy. He was giving us the pattern of a wedding. The rapture is the bridegroom's return. The moment the Father says, It's time. John 14:3 is not an isolated verse, it's a revelation in miniature. The entire theology of the rapture fits inside its phrases like a hidden code of love. It begins with his departure, continues with his preparation, and ends with his personal return to claim his bride. This is why the early church lived in expectancy. They weren't waiting for wrath, they were waiting for reunion. They didn't fear the Antichrist, they longed for the bridegroom. And though centuries have passed, that promise has not aged a day. I will come again and receive you unto myself. He didn't say, I might. He didn't say, someone else will. He said, I will. The same voice that calmed storms, healed lepers, and raised the dead sealed the rapture with those three words, I will come. That's the hidden key. The rapture isn't a theory, it's a vow. It's not speculation, it's a sacred promise. And every tick of history is counting down to the moment when that vow is fulfilled, and the groom steps through the clouds to claim his bride forever. 2. The ancient wedding pattern, the bridegroom's return. When Jesus spoke the words in John 14:3, he wasn't introducing a new idea, he was revealing an old pattern. His disciples were Jewish. They understood weddings not as ceremonies, but as covenants. Every phrase he used carried the language of betrothal, the rhythm of romance, and the prophecy of promise. He wasn't describing an abstract event. He was describing a marriage. The rapture is not merely an escape. It is a wedding day written in eternity. In the ancient Galilean wedding, after the betrothal was sealed with a covenant cup of wine, the groom would leave his bride's home and return to his father's house. There, he would build a bridal chamber, an addition to his father's dwelling. It could take months, even years, depending on the preparation. The bride never knew the exact day he would return, but she knew one thing for certain, he would. Every day she would wait, prepare, and keep herself ready, because his promise was her guarantee. That's why Jesus' words sounded so familiar to his disciples. When he said, I go to prepare a place for you, they didn't hear a metaphor, they heard a marriage vow. They understood that he was the bridegroom, they were the bride, and the Father's house was the destination. His departure wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. His delay wasn't neglect, it was love. And when he said, I will come again and receive you unto myself, they knew exactly what he meant. The Jewish groom's return for his bride was sudden, unexpected, and usually at night. The bride would be asleep, and then, at the Father's command, the groom and his friends would start a procession through the streets with torches and a loud shout. The cry would echo through the night. Behold, the bridegroom comes. Go out to meet him. Does that sound familiar? Paul used the same language in 1 Thessalonians 4:16-17. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel and the trumpet of God, and we will be caught up together with them in the clouds. Paul wasn't inventing poetry, he was describing prophecy. The rapture follows the exact sequence of a Jewish wedding. The father gives the signal. The bridegroom descends with a shout. The bride rises to meet him. The wedding procession moves toward the father's house. And there, behind closed doors, a 7-day celebration begins. Now, look again at the pattern. The bridegroom leaves to prepare a place. The bride waits, not knowing the day or hour. The father alone declares the time of the return. The bridegroom comes suddenly, at night, with a shout and a trumpet. The bride rises to meet him. Then comes the wedding feast. It's all there in the words of Jesus, in the customs of his people, and in the timeline of prophecy. What looks like a mysterious event in theology is in fact the most intimate moment in love's story. The rapture is not a political rescue, it's a personal retrieval. The church isn't escaping wrath. She's being escorted to a wedding, and just as in Galilee, the bride must stay ready. The groom's delay tested her devotion. Would she remain pure? Would she stay awake, with her lamp trimmed and burning? Would she still be waiting when the cry came? These are the same questions the Holy Spirit is asking the church today. Jesus is not coming back for a church that merely believes in him. He's coming for a bride who still longs for him. In ancient times, a faithful bride slept in her wedding dress, oil lamp beside her, ready to rise at the sound of her beloved's voice. That's the posture of the true church in the final hour, not panic, but preparation. So when Jesus said, "I will come again and receive you unto myself," he wasn't giving us information, he was giving us identity. We are the bride of the King. Our waiting is not wasted. The silence is not abandonment. The delay is devotion. Because when the Father looks at the house the Son has prepared and says, "It's ready," heaven will erupt. The groom will rise. The trumpet will sound. And in one glorious moment, what was promised in the upper room will become reality in the clouds. 3. The upper room promised the comfort before the storm. The words of John 14 were not spoken in triumph, they were spoken in trembling. The disciples were confused, frightened, and heartbroken. Jesus had just told them he was going away. For 3 years they had walked beside him, seen the dead raised, the blind see, the storm silenced, and now, in a single evening, he was talking about departure, betrayal, and death. The room was thick with sorrow, their faith cracking under the weight of uncertainty. And it's into that heaviness that Jesus speaks the words that would become the cornerstone of rapture hope. "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you." John 14:1-2. He wasn't giving them theology. He was giving them peace. Before the storm of Calvary, before the persecution of Rome, before the darkness of centuries, Jesus planted in their hearts the seed of hope. "I will come again and receive you to myself." That verse wasn't about the second coming in wrath. It was about the first reunion in love. When he said, "I will come again," he wasn't describing the moment his feet touch the Mount of Olives to establish his kingdom. He was describing the moment he meets his bride in the air to escort her to the Father's house. That's why his tone was tender, not terrifying. He wasn't warning the world, he was whispering to his friends. This distinction is vital. The world will see his second coming. Only the bride will see the rapture. The world will mourn when he appears in judgment. The church will rejoice when he appears in rescue. The second coming is public, every eye will see him. The rapture is private. Only the redeemed will hear his voice. In John 14, Jesus wasn't revealing destruction. He was revealing devotion. He knew that storms were coming both for them and for us. That's why he began with, "Let not your heart be troubled." Those words echo through time like a melody to every anxious believer. When the headlines shake, when nations rage, when persecution rises, when faith feels costly, his voice still speaks. Don't let fear write your future. I'm coming for you. Even as he faced the cross, his eyes were on the reunion beyond it. He wanted them, and us, to know that death, suffering, and delay were not the end of the story. The groom was leaving only to prepare the place where the bride would dwell forever. The word he used, prepare, was the same used for setting a table before a feast. He wasn't just building rooms, he was arranging a celebration. Think about that. While the world burns itself out chasing progress and pleasure, Jesus is building a home. Every nail driven in Calvary, every drop of blood shed, every prayer you whisper now, it all moves us closer to the moment when he says, "It's ready." This is why the rapture is not escapism. It's completion. It's not God removing his people to avoid pain. It's the groom returning to fulfill his vow. The upper room promise is the divine love letter that sustains the church through every season of fear. And if those disciples needed comfort before the storm, how much more do we? The same Spirit that steadied their trembling hearts is speaking now to ours. The world feels unsteady. Nations are trembling. Truth is collapsing, but the promise remains. I will come again and receive you unto myself. That's not mythology, it's memory written into eternity. The one who promised has never failed a word he's spoken. He came the first time just as he said he would. He died just as he said he would. He rose just as he said he would. And now he will return just as he said he would. So when fear whispers, when you feel surrounded by chaos, remember the upper room. The same Jesus who spoke those words by candlelight is still whispering them to your soul. Don't be troubled. I'm not gone forever. I'm coming back for you. The storm may rage, but the promise stands. The cross proved his love. The rapture will prove his faithfulness. 4. The language of love, not judgment, but invitation. When Jesus spoke of his return in John 14, he wasn't describing an event of terror. He was describing an act of love. The tone of his promise was not thunder, it was tenderness. This wasn't the vocabulary of war, it was the language of a wedding. Every phrase in those verses carries the rhythm of relationship, not the roar of wrath. For so long, many have viewed prophecy only through the lens of fear. They hear the word rapture and think of panic, loss, and uncertainty. But that was never how Jesus intended it. To the unbeliever, his return will be shocking. But to the believer, it will be sacred. To the world, it will feel like interruption. To the bride, it will feel like fulfillment. The rapture is not Jesus invading, it's Jesus inviting. It's the moment when love completes its mission. That's why he didn't use the vocabulary of armies, but of intimacy. He didn't say, "I will come to conquer," but, "I will come again and receive you unto myself." The difference is everything. Conquest belongs to the second coming. Communion belongs to the rapture. The book of Revelation opens with fire and fury, but John 14 opens with comfort and closeness. Both describe the same Lord, but different moments in his divine plan. One is the king returning to judge, the other is the bridegroom returning to embrace. Both reveal his power, but one reveals his heart. This is what many miss when they study prophecy without love. They know the timeline, but not the tone. The key to understanding John 14:3 is that it was spoken in the language of covenant affection. Every Jewish listener knew exactly what he meant when he said, "I go to prepare a place for you." Those were wedding words. They meant, "I am bound to you. I will return for you. Our union is sealed." He wasn't talking about a place of escape. He was talking about a place of belonging. He didn't say, "I'll take you to safety." He said, "I'll take you to myself." That's not the voice of a general. It's the whisper of a groom. This is the heartbeat of the rapture. Love fulfilled. The same love that led him to the cross will lead him back through the clouds. The same voice that said, "It is finished," will soon say, "It's time." The bridegroom didn't endure crucifixion to leave his bride behind. He died to come back for her. The rapture is the closing act of a divine romance that began in Eden. From the beginning, God desired not just worshippers, but companions. He walked with Adam in the cool of the day. He called Abraham his friend. He spoke to Moses face to face. And now, through Christ, he has called us his bride. The rapture is not God's evacuation plan, it's his wedding procession. Even the words of Paul in Ephesians 5 echo this mystery. Christ loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might present her to himself, a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle. Every trial you've endured, every pruning, every test of faith, it's all part of that preparation. The bridegroom isn't just building a place, he's beautifying a people, and that's why this promise matters. The same Jesus who warned of judgment also whispered of joy. The same God who shakes nations also gathers hearts. He hides his most precious truths, not from the world, but for the bride. And those who listen with love hear what the world cannot. So when you read John 14:3, don't hear it as a doctrine, hear it as a declaration. The King of Kings looked into the eyes of those who would soon betray, deny, and abandon him, and still said, "I will come again for you." That's not just mercy, that's marriage. He knows your failures, your weariness, your waiting, and still he comes, not to punish, but to possess, not to condemn, but to claim. The rapture is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of the wedding. That's why Jesus' final words before the cross were not of fear, but of fidelity. The last message he gave before his suffering was a vow, "I will come again." It was his way of saying, no matter how dark the world gets, no matter how long the wait feels, I'm still coming for you. That's love's language. Not threat, but promise. Not fear, but faithfulness. And every tick of prophecy brings the bride closer to hearing those words again, not from the pages of Scripture, but from the mouth of the groom himself. 5. The forgotten clue that where I am, you may be also. If we read Jesus' promise in John 14:3 carefully, we begin to see that this verse contains more than just a declaration of his return. It holds the key to understanding the true purpose of the rapture itself, the reason why he will come for his church. He didn't just say, "I will come again and take you away from the world." He said, "I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also." That phrase, "that where I am, there you may be also," is often overlooked, but it is the central focus of the rapture. It is the essence of the promise. Jesus is not merely coming to rescue the church from tribulation. He is coming to bring us to himself. The ultimate purpose of the rapture is not just to escape the suffering of this world. It is to enter into an eternal relationship with the bridegroom. Jesus' words echo the deep longing of a bridegroom who desires not just the physical presence of his bride, but her heart, her undivided devotion, This is the culmination of the love story that began in Eden, when God's greatest desire was to dwell with his people. The rapture is the final moment when that desire will be fully realized. The significance of these words is profound, that where I am, there you may be also. Jesus didn't say he was coming to take his bride to a better world or a safer place. He was coming to take her to his world, to his presence, to the place he's been preparing for her. The essence of the rapture isn't about escaping the earth. It's about entering the presence of God himself, where there is no more separation, no more veil, no more barrier between the Creator and his creation. This is the heart of the rapture. Union. Not just physical transportation to another realm, but reunion with the Savior, the Bridegroom. The place he is preparing is more than a mansion. It is an eternal home where his presence will be the very air we breathe, the light we live by, the love we are surrounded by. We've often focused on the timing of the rapture, trying to figure out when it will happen, where it fits in the timeline of prophetic events. But the true focus of this promise is not when, but where. Jesus isn't coming just to deliver us from the troubles of the world. He is coming to bring us to himself, where he is forever. This is the ultimate end of the gospel. To be with God, to be where he is, to live in communion with the one who created us. Think about that for a moment. The God who walked in the garden with Adam and Eve, who dwelt in the tabernacle with the Israelites, who walked the earth in the person of Jesus Christ, is now preparing a place for us to dwell with him forever. No longer will there be separation. No longer will we be distant from the one who loves us. The rapture is the moment when that separation is permanently ended. The door that has always been just slightly ajar will be thrown wide open. In this final act of divine love, we are not just escaping the world, we are entering into the presence of the Bridegroom. We are being called to the wedding feast, where the Bridegroom will finally claim his bride, and we will be with him forever. This is why the rapture is not a grim event. It is the culmination of the greatest love story ever told. It's not a flight from disaster, but a flight toward a destiny of eternal intimacy with the one who loves us beyond measure. This final reunion is what we were created for. From the moment humanity fell, God's plan has been to bring us back to himself, to restore the fellowship that was lost in Eden. And when the rapture happens, it will be the final fulfillment of that restoration. We will no longer be strangers or visitors in the presence of God. We will be his eternal, beloved bride, united in perfect communion. As the world grows darker, as the final countdown toward midnight ticks away, let us keep our eyes on the promise that where he is, we will be also. This is the ultimate comfort, the ultimate hope. The rapture is not just a rescue mission, it's a reunion with the one we love, the one who loved us first. And when that moment comes, we will finally hear him say, "Come, my beloved, come, and be with me forever." 6. The overlooked detail, the trumpet and the shout. As we continue to unpack Jesus' promise in John 14:3, we begin to see that not only does he promise to take his bride to himself, but he also gives us a vivid picture of how the rapture will occur: the shout, the trumpet, and the gathering. These details are often glossed over, but they carry deep meaning and align perfectly with the ancient Jewish wedding customs, which Jesus used to describe his return. In 1 Thessalonians 4:16-17, Paul expands on Jesus' promise, giving us the unmistakable clues of the rapture. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. and thus we shall always be with the Lord. Notice the three components of this verse: the shout, the voice of the archangel, and the trumpet. These are not just random events. They reflect the ancient Jewish wedding tradition, and they reveal the significance of the moment. Jesus didn't just give us a timeline or a sequence of events. He gave us a picture of love, a picture of the moment he comes for his bride. First, there's the shout. This is the bridegroom's cry, the loud announcement that he's coming for his bride. In Jewish weddings, the bridegroom would shout with joy, "Behold, the bridegroom cometh." This wasn't a whisper or a subtle call. It was a cry of triumph, a declaration of fulfillment. When Jesus descends with a shout, it will not be a cry of judgment. It will be a cry of love and anticipation. It's the voice of the groom calling his bride to rise. This moment of shouting is the signal for the bride to be ready, to stand up, to gather herself, and prepare to leave everything behind. It is an invitation that cannot be ignored. It is the moment of recognition, the moment that tells the bride, "It's time. The groom has arrived, and he is taking you to the place he's prepared for you." Next, the voice of the archangel accompanies the shout. This is no ordinary voice. It is the voice of authority, the voice that confirms the bridegroom's call. The archangel is no mere messenger. He is the herald of heaven, declaring to all that the moment has come. In the Jewish wedding custom, the herald's voice would announce that the bridegroom was at the door, and all who were waiting needed to prepare for the procession. The archangel's voice will be the cosmic confirmation of the rapture, proclaiming that heaven's plan for the bride is now in motion. Finally, the trumpet of God sounds. The trumpet is a symbol of divine authority. In the Jewish wedding, the sound of a trumpet marked the beginning of the celebration. The bridegroom, with his friends, would blow the trumpet to announce the arrival at the bride's home. In the case of the rapture, the trumpet will announce the bride's journey to her eternal home. But this trumpet isn't just a sign of the beginning of a celebration. It's a divine call to the bride. The trumpet doesn't just tell us it's time. It calls us to action. It summons us out of the world, away from distraction, and into the presence of the bridegroom. It is a divine call to leave behind everything that once mattered, to rise and meet the Lord in the air. The trumpet will sound, and in that instant, everything in this world will fade away, because the bride will be with her groom. These three elements, the shout, the voice of the archangel, and the trumpet, create the divine announcement of the rapture. But there's one detail we cannot overlook. Paul says, "And we will be caught up together." The Greek word used here, harpazo, means to seize, to snatch away, to carry off by force. It's not just a gentle invitation, it's a divine gathering. Jesus is coming for his bride, and no power in heaven or earth will stop it. The bride will rise in that instant, not because she's ready, but because the groom is coming to take her, to gather her. The moment the trumpet sounds, the world will be left in confusion, but the bride will rise in glory. The moment of departure will be sudden, and in the twinkling of an eye, the bride will be with her bridegroom. The bridegroom will not come to stand in front of his bride. He will take her with him, and in that moment, time will cease. In that moment, nothing else will matter. The shouting will fade, the voice will silence, the trumpet will cease, and all that will remain is the eternal union of the bride with her groom. The rapture is the moment when heaven's promises become reality, when love is consummated, and when the eternal wedding feast begins. 7. The final call, the bride's readiness. The countdown is almost complete. The stage is set. The trumpet is poised to sound, and the bridegroom stands at the threshold, waiting for the Father's signal to take his bride. But before the rapture can unfold, there's one last question we must ask ourselves. Are we ready? Jesus made it clear that the rapture will not surprise those who are prepared, but it will catch many off guard. The difference between those who rise to meet him and those left behind is not knowledge, it's readiness. Jesus told a parable in Matthew 25 about 10 virgins, 5 wise and 5 foolish. All 10 had lamps, all 10 had been invited, but only 5 were ready when the bridegroom came. The 5 wise virgins had prepared. They had extra oil, their lamps were burning brightly, and they were awake, waiting for the call. But the 5 foolish virgins, who had neglected to fill their lamps with oil, found themselves in the dark when the midnight cry came. By the time they rushed to find oil, the door to the wedding feast had been shut. This parable speaks directly to the church today. We may all carry the title of Christian, but are we prepared? The lamps represent our spiritual condition, the light that shines within us. Oil represents the Holy Spirit, the fuel that keeps our faith burning. The rapture is not just about being religious or knowing the right doctrines. It's about having the Spirit of God burning brightly in our hearts. It's about being filled with His presence, His peace, and His power. Jesus' warning in Matthew 25 is sobering. Watch, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming. This is a call to vigilance, a call to preparedness, and a call to holiness. The wise virgins didn't wait until the moment of crisis to prepare, they prepared in advance. They didn't wait until the bridegroom's voice was heard to get ready, they were already ready. And when the call came, they were the ones who entered into the feast with Him. The rapture will not be about our perfection, it will be about our preparedness. The church is called to live with a sense of urgency, to live as though Jesus is coming today, but to also live with the confidence that He will come for those who are ready. This readiness is not about being perfect, it's about being attentive. It's about staying awake in a world that wants us to sleep, staying alert in a culture that wants us to grow numb to the things of God. The last days are marked by a growing apathy, a drifting away from the purity of devotion. Jesus warned that because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. Matthew 24-12. The trap of the last days isn't persecution, it's apathy. It's the slow, unnoticed drift from a passionate pursuit of Christ to a comfortable coexistence with the world. And the danger is that we may not even realize it until it's too late. But Jesus has made a way for His bride to stay ready. He has given us His word to guide us, His Spirit to empower us, and His grace to sustain us. We don't need to wonder if we are prepared, we just need to keep our lamps filled. We need to remain in prayer, in the Word, in worship, and in communion with the Holy Spirit. These are the things that keep our hearts burning with anticipation, that keep us watchful, that keep us prepared. The final call will come like a thief in the night, sudden and unexpected. But for those who have kept their oil full, for those who have stayed awake, it will not be a moment of fear. It will be the culmination of a lifetime of longing. When the trumpet sounds, the bride will not scramble to get ready. She will rise, confident and prepared, knowing that she has been waiting for this moment her whole life. The rapture isn't just about escaping trouble. It's about being with the one we love. It's about entering into the fullness of the joy that is prepared for us. The final call is not just an invitation to flee from danger. It's a call to come closer, to be united forever with our bridegroom. So, as we live in the final moments before the clock strikes midnight, let's keep our eyes on the bridegroom. Let's live as those who are waiting, expecting, and preparing. Let's not let the world's distractions dull our hearts. Let's be those who, when the trumpet sounds, rise with joy, knowing that the groom is coming for us, His beloved bride. The bridegroom is ready. The question is, are you? Conclusion. When the clock strikes midnight, the final moments are upon us. The countdown is almost over. The clock is ticking down to the last second, and the world continues to spin in its frenzy, unaware of what's about to happen. But the true church, the bride, feels it. We hear the quiet ticking of prophecy, the quickening of time, the whisper in the Spirit that says, "Get ready." The promise Jesus gave us in John 14:3 wasn't just a hope, it was a blueprint. It was a love letter from the Bridegroom, hidden in plain sight, revealing his heart and his plan. He is coming back, not to judge, but to take his bride to the place he has prepared for her. He is coming not in anger, but in love, and just as he promised, he will come again, and he will receive us to himself. As the world grows darker, as the birth pains of the last days intensify, we are called to keep our lamps full, our hearts burning, our spirits awake. The rapture is not just an event. It is the culmination of a love story that has been unfolding since the beginning of time. It is the moment when heaven meets earth, when the groom takes his bride, and when the age of grace gives way to eternal glory. But in order to be part of that moment, we must be ready. Not perfect, not flawless, but prepared. The wise virgins were not the ones who had everything figured out. They were the ones who stayed alert, who kept their hearts pure, who were waiting for the bridegroom's return. Jesus said, "Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming." The rapture will not be a moment of fear for those who are ready. It will be the moment they've been waiting for, longing for, and praying for. It will be the fulfillment of every promise, every prayer, every tear that has been sown in faith. And when that trumpet sounds, when the shout rings out, the bride will rise free, loved, and united with her groom forever. So let us live with this in mind. The clock is ticking, but the bridegroom is coming. And when he does, he will not come in haste or in panic, but with perfect timing, in perfect love, and in perfect grace. The doors of mercy will close, but those who have kept their oil full will be ready. And when the clock strikes midnight, we will not be left behind. We will rise to meet him in the air and be with him forever. Keep your lamp burning. Keep your heart waiting. The bridegroom is coming, and when he comes, it will be worth every moment of waiting.